Welcome, everyone. My name is Alexis Carlin. I'm the Digital Marketing and Operations Manager for Percussion Software. Thank you for joining us on today's webinar to see Percussion's patent-pending technology, LiveFirst, in action. Dan will speak for about 30 minutes, and after, we will have time to cover any questions you may have. To start, I would just like to mention a few housekeeping notes. If you would like to live tweet, the Twitter tag for today's webinar is #LiveFirst. A recording will be emailed to you after today's presentation and available on percussion.com. And there will be time for Q&A post-webinar, so please type your questions into the chat window, and we would be happy to answer them afterwards. Before we get started, a quick word on Percussion. Percussion software is the next generation in web content management. Percussion transforms how you manage content, making it easier than ever to accelerate your content marketing initiatives. Percussion software is used by AIDS.gov, Lancaster Bible College, Mass.gov, Sunoco, and Vegas.com. You can learn more about our products on percussion.com. Today's webinar will be presented to you by Dan Flanagan, the Vice President of Products at Percussion Software. Dan is responsible for product strategy, which includes product management, product marketing, user experience, and product documentation. With that, take it away, Dan.
Thanks, Alexis. So today I'm going to walk you through a demo of LiveFirst. For those of you who aren't familiar with Percussion or haven't been working with us, our content management system is designed to be powered by marketing and loved by IT. And what do we mean by that? Well, traditionally, content management has had this painful relationship between marketing and IT. On the one hand, marketing owns content. On the other hand, IT owns deployment. On the one hand, IT owns apps. On the other hand, marketing cares about the overall message of the site. And it's been an unholy union. Instead of your traditional peanut butter and chocolate, it's been more like chocolate with hummus. Well, we're looking to change that. When we started on this journey, we really looked at the Salesforce model of approximately 10 years ago. Along came Salesforce looking to deliver CRM as a product. And at the time, nobody thought that was possible. Everybody thought that CRM had to be something that was custom built. And you saw solutions like Siebel and Clarify and Vantiv that really owned the market at the time, but were expensive to deploy and hard to maintain. Salesforce changed all that. And that's what Percussion's looking to do with the content management space. A development platform is not a necessity in order to deploy an engaging and effective website. So that's what our goal is. And we've been doing quite well at this for the last couple of years. And what we saw, one of the biggest challenges of content management and content marketing was just making the switch, right? That as much as people looked at our technology and our product and thought, oh my God, I love it, wish I could get there, there was this monumental idea of having to have a project in order to migrate your website. And so what we said is, what if we could invert that? What if we could change that completely? So that instead of having to basically blow up your website and rebuild it in Percussion, what if we could provide a way to actually import your site in the same way that you can just install an application on a Mac by simply dragging and dropping and typing in your URL and importing it? And we took that further. We said, well, beyond just importing, what if we took away a lot of the work that you needed to do in order to get your website up and running? So we said, it shouldn't be a necessity for you to build everything from scratch in order to get your new website up and running. What if you only had to focus on the things that were most important to you? Say you needed to add more calls to action. Say you wanted to insert video on your products page. So we went with this philosophy of, what if I could import my site, improve just one thing, and then publish? And then over time, improve my site incrementally as I see what's working. So with LiveFirst, the idea is to import your site as is. And then customers can shave off as much as 90% of the time and the cost that it takes to go live. And with Percussion, the definition of live changes. Some work is made really easy. For example, creating templates is a very simple process that we'll walk through today. Some work is deferred. For example, if you're not going to change your navigation right away, we can import your existing navigation structure, and you can defer that work and changing that until later on when you decide that you do need to change your navigation structure. And some work is eliminated altogether, the biggest piece being the need to migrate all of your content. So that being said, let's look at product. All right. I've logged in here to Percussion as an administrative user, just starting out. So the application is fairly empty. The first thing that I want to do is I want to go ahead and designate the site that I want to import. Now, what I've done is we've created a sample website that we use for our own internal testing purposes. That's sort of an amalgamation of many different sites that we've worked with, the customers that we've worked with over the years. So the first thing I'm going to do is just copy that URL. And then coming over to Percussion, I'm going to click the Create Site button. So I'm going to say the name of my new site is going to be called demo2.com, and I'm going to paste in that URL and click Next. So what happens next is that our LiveFirst technology goes through the process of importing the site. It goes through the page and it finds all of the references on that page to CSS files, to JavaScript files, to assets, to background images, to PDFs and docs, and it starts importing all of that content. It also goes through the process of looking at the page and understanding the metadata. For example, if you've embedded Google Analytics tags on your pages, it's going to take that and move it into the system in the way that we manage that information. And then it's going to go through the page and it's going to identify all of the links on the page. And it's going to queue those up to be imported. And when it does that, once it finishes importing the home page, it moves on to the next page and it repeats that process. It says, what on this page is new? So you never have to worry about duplicating or importing a duplicate CSS page. With each new page that gets imported, it only will identify new content and queue that up and import it as well. And it goes through that process recursively until it's imported the entire website. Now, while that's happening, I've got a nice little video for that new user explaining what it is that they're going to need to do next, so that while you're sitting and waiting, you're actually learning how to use the product. So I can see my import is complete, and I'm going to click Done. And that's going to take me to the Design Manager. And on the Design Manager, what I see is that I've got a home page that's been assigned to a template, and I have a number of pages that have been imported but not yet assigned to templates. So what I can do is I can start to look at these pages. I can see a little thumbnail of each of these pages that tells me what the page looks like. And as I do that, what I'll start to see is I'll start to see which pages have a common look and feel. Now, in this case, I happen to know that the products page, this products page is the Marketing Cloud and the WebWorks Performance page, that those are all products page that have a common design. So I'm going to take one of those, an existing page, and I'm going to use it in order to create a template. So I highlight the page and I click Create Template from Page. And once I've done that, I can go in and I can edit that template. Before I do that, I can just validate that all of my content has been moved in the exact same way that it was found on my original site. I'm going to expand what we call the Finder. And the Finder shows the information architecture of your site. So what I can see here is that in my www.demo2.com site, I can see the home page. I can see the folder of the subfolder where the pages were found. And as I click through, I see the continuing folders that were imported, as well as all the pages. If I were to go into the Assets and Design sections of the Finder, I would be able to find all of my images, all my PDFs, all my documents. I'd be able to find all my CSS files and JavaScript files. So I bring it all in and I manage it immediately. And when I say manage it, what that means is that if I wanted to start dragging and dropping folders and changing the file structure, all of my links would remain intact. Nothing would be broken because once it's in the CMS, I don't have to worry about those relationships being broken. They're all being managed by the Percussion CMS. The import also gives me a nice little summary. It tells me how many pages I imported, how many files, how many links are now being managed by the system, and the number of style sheets. It also tells me if there are any errors in the import process. For example, what we often find is that companies on their website, they're a little bit messy. They may have a reference to an image file that's missing or a link to a PDF file that for some reason has been removed. And all of those broken links and missing assets are highlighted as part of this report so that I can quickly go and resolve those issues either by removing the reference to that image or PDF or by finding it and putting it in the right place in the file structure. So from here, what I want to do is I want to start the process of editing that template. So again, I'm going to take my products template, and I'm going to start to edit it. Now, when we import the page, what we do is we import a giant HTML, what we call asset. In other words, it's just a capture of the HTML of the rendered page on your existing website. And what I want to do is I want to start to break this page down into pieces so I can manage it as a template. If I were working in another CMS, or if I were working to create a template from scratch, I would have a blank page, and I'd have to start to assemble my template in the way that you would assemble Lego pieces. But this way allows me to actually work from a rendered page to create a template. So to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use what we call the Design Inspector. So I'm going to select this scope icon here, and I'm going to go down to the rendered page, and I'm going to highlight and start to break it down. Now when I do this, what it does is it highlights to me the sections within the page. So in this case, I select, and it shows me that I have a number of regions on this page. In this case, regions correspond to divs, for those of you who are familiar with HTML. And what it does is it inspects from the outside in. So I can select this, and I say I want these stacked, and it'll break it down into 4 different sections. And as I continue this process, it can show me how I can further break down the page, or in some cases, it can show me that I can't further break down a section into further subsections. Now, what my goal is to get this template to the point where my marketing users can manage their content. So in this case, at some point, I may want to redo my navigation. But for today, it's fine as is. So I'm going to turn off the Design Inspector. I'm going to save my changes. And I'm going to go over to the Content tab. Because what I want to do is I want to say what content on this page should actually be part of the template. So in this case, I say, well, I want this navigation area at the top of the page to be part of the template. And as I scroll down, I say, I want this bottom navigation area to be part of the template as well. But these 2 sections, this banner image and this main content, this content is all going to be unique to the page. So I'm not going to make those part of the template. And the last thing that I want to do, by going over to the layout page, is when I imported these are now assets in HTML. And I actually want to make them easier for that marketing user to use. So I'm going to convert this to rich text. Rich text being an interface very similar to Microsoft Word that allows me to edit and manage my content. So at this point, I have a functioning template that I can use as the basis of creating new pages in the Percussion CMS. So for example, if I go up here to create a new page, It shows me a picture of that template, and I can go ahead and I can create a page called Dan. And it generates a new page for me that has the header, the footer, an area where I can insert an image, and an area where I can edit the content. And all of my styles come across. So if I say heading, hello, I can select my heading, and I can insert the format of H1, and it's going to take the heading format directly from my CSS that came across as part of the import. So all of my styles are already in place, allowing me very rapidly to be able to start to add new content to my website. Let's go back to that design manager again to look at the pages that were imported as part of the process. And again, what I see here is I have my new template. And in fact, I'm going to rename this products, this new template. And I see that it's got a couple of pages assigned to it. It's got the Dan page that I just created and that original products page that I used in order to create the template. Now, if I go back over here, I'm going to select similar pages that have that common look and feel. I see the marketing cloud here has a common look and feel. So I'm going to drag and drop that over. Same thing with this WebWorks Performance Cloud. That's a similar look and feel. And I'm going to drag and drop that right over. When I assign a page to a template, the system goes through the process of figuring out which content should go into which sections on the page, so that the marketing user, when they go in and start to work on this page, the content has already been populated into the right sections on the page. So as I look at this marketing cloud, I can see that the header, this little icon indicates that this is part of the template, so I can't edit it as part of editing the page. This section here is editable as part of the page. And my Marketing Cloud content is also editable as part of the page. So immediately, after assigning pages, I can go in and start adding value and updating my content. From here, if all I needed to do was just get that content in place, I could go ahead and publish. And I can, in fact, I can preview to actually validate what this site would look like were I to publish. I'll go ahead and I'll select that home page, and I'll look at a preview of that page, and I'll see that it was rendered exactly the way it was on my original website. So if I were to republish this and put this out as my live website, visitors to my website would see absolutely no degradation in performance, in content, in design. For them, it would be completely seamless. Somebody who visited my site yesterday and who visits it now today would see no difference in terms of the design. So I can either go through the process of assigning all of my pages to appropriate templates, but in many cases, again, part of the beauty of work that we can either defer or not do, I don't have to go through that process and assign every page to a template. For example, if I have 500 old press releases, when I import them, they'll look just the way they looked before. They'll be there perfectly. All of the links will work. My SEO will continue to work. I don't have to worry about that. But I don't have to go through the process of breaking them down and assigning them to templates, because if I'm never going to change those old press releases, why would I do anything to them? I'll just republish them in the new from this CMS, and they'll continue to do their job. So it eliminates work that shouldn't have to be necessary. If I were building my site from scratch in a new CMS, I'd have to build my old press release template. I'd have to drag my old press releases, or I'd have to make sort of a Sophie's choice of, oh, I'm not going to bring those across, and I'll risk my SEO and the fact that there may be links to those old press releases that are now going to be broken. Now also, once I've imported the site, I can actually start the process of going ahead and enhancing a site. Now to do that, to illustrate that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new template. I'm going to take this About Us page, and I'm going to use this to create a template. So I've created the About Us page, or the About Us template. I'm going to go ahead and select it and edit it. I'll go through that same process of breaking the page down into multiple sections. In this case, what I'm going to do is I'm also going to take this section here, the About Web Work section, and I'm going to break this down as well. Because what I want to do now is actually go through the process of enhancing my website. So at this point, I've had to manually maintain these links over in the left column. That's been a manual effort. And I decide that I actually want to replace that with dynamic content rather than have that be manual. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and now add a widget from our library of predefined widgets. So I'm going to scroll over here, and you see we have all sorts of predefined or out-of-the-box widgets, whether it be images, image autolist, navigation, logons, social icons or social widgets, polls, etc. But what I want is the page autolist. And I'm going to drag this over and insert it onto my page. And I'm going to go ahead and start the process of configuring it. I'm going to say that I want this list to be no more than 5 images, and I want to sort it by the link text. And I don't need an RSS icon, so start here by defining some of the properties. I'm going to give it a name. And then I'm going to go over my Content tab. And I'm going to define the content that displays in that auto list. And in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into that About Us folder, and I'm going to select that. Give it a title. And now it's auto-generated that list based on the files that are in that folder. Now I can go ahead and I can refine my style a little bit. I could jump over here and I could use some of my CSS skills. I could tweak my style a little bit if I needed to. And when it's ready, what I can do is I can basically get rid of that old content. So I'm going to remove that old content, and now I've enhanced my website so that instead of having to manually maintain those navigation links down the side, now I can auto-generate them. And again, I could do many other things like that. If I wanted to come in here and put in a call to action on this page, I could come in and I could drag in a form, or I could insert an HTML widget if I was integrating with my marketing automation system. Maybe I generate my forms in Marketo or Eloqua, and I want to just insert that form into the website. I can go ahead and I can do that by dragging in our different code insertion widgets, either at HTML or iframe. So again, within a short period of time, I'm able to start enhancing my site so that I'm able to really reduce the time to value of my CMS. I'm able to actually start enhancing my site within the first day of importing my site with the possibility of publishing right away. And the last thing I want to show you before I open it up for questions is to give you a little bit of a picture of what we look at as the time savings. Percussion software started out with a first-generation content management system about 10 years ago. And so what we've done is we've used that knowledge to help us compare what the effort it takes to migrate a site using a development platform with the time it takes to migrate a site using Percussion. So from the Percussion homepage, you can click on How to Migrate at a Low Cost. And you can enter in some basic information about your website. So I'm going to say that my website is about 1,500 pages. That I think I have about 5 different designs or templates on my website. Let's say I've got about 100 PDFs and docs that I want to that are part of my website. And also, if I were to have an hourly contractor do this work, what would that cost? You know, we say 150 is an average price that we see for that kind of resource. And if I click on Calculate, what I can see is the total number of days that we see to go live using LiveFirst versus how much it would take using another content management system, and the dollars saved. I'd love for each and every one of you to go ahead and try this for your website, and to go ahead and ask for a demo showing how we can import your website. Like I said, this sample website that we set up is representative of the types of things we see out on the web, but we feel confident that we'll be able to show value on your site as well. Alexis?
Great, Dan. Thank you. I sure learned a lot from that demonstration. So we have one question. It's a really great question about LiveFirst. Does the editor have a code view?
Sure. So actually, with any given widget, so let me go ahead and save this. I can see the code that is being generated. So hold on one moment. Let me go back to that. So I'll go back into my my template. So I can go and I can look at the metadata about this page. So I can see the areas. I can see the overall doc type and HTML tags. We parse this out into different areas in the application to allow us to manage it more effectively. And then we assemble the pages upon publish or upon preview. So I can look here, I can see the doc type and manage that if I want to. I can see my head content, so the content that will be in the head of my page. I can see any content that I have after body start, that I insert after body start and body close. So I can see that content, and then I can see the rendered content by looking at the preview. So if I go look at the given page and I view the preview, I can actually view the source here, so that I can see how the rendered HTML is being the final HTML is being rendered. But part of our design philosophy is that we don't want to require our marketing users to have to be able to manage the CSS, the HTML themselves, and so we generate the HTML directly rather than making people manage the HTML themselves.
Oh, okay. That's great. Thank you. So we have one more question that actually just popped up. Okay, so she was referring to a code view within the edit widget for the content for fine-tuning.
Yeah, absolutely. So here I am on a page, and I've inserted this sample. So I can look at this content, and this is the rich text version of that, and then I can go look at a source code version of that, so I can see all of the generated code that is within that. So yeah, then I could come in if for some reason I wanted to put in a span class equals. Oops, we're seeing a little bit of a delay on the GoToMeeting. So I could come in here and I could insert additional HTML if I wanted to. So I could come in here and put in my own HTML overrides. I'm going to go ahead and cancel here. But yeah, so I can come in here and have a little bit more fine-grained control over the content, so that, you know, if I inserted a table and I really wanted to fine-tune the classes or the design of each individual cell, I could do so.
Perfect, Dan. Thank you. Well, that about wraps up today's presentation on LiveFirst. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. Thank you very much. And if you guys have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us or visit us on percussion.com as well. And if you enjoyed today's webinar as much as we did, feel free to share it on Twitter with the hashtag LiveFirst. And thank you for attending. We hope you have a great day.